Welcome back. Sexism has certainly been the headlines this week, from the furore about opera singer Tara Iraq's weight to Joe Brolly's jibe about Sky's Baywatch babe. So, are we still inherently sexist, or have we just gone PC mad? To tell us their views on all this and their own experiences of sexism, please welcome musician and songwriter Sinéad O'Connor, last year's UK Apprentice winner Dr. Leah Totton, and legal editor of the Irish Independent, Dearbhail McDonald. Hey, Sinéad. Looking good. Hello, should I say, hello, ladies, hello, women.
Get it right.
Okay, so Dearbhail, there's a lot of talk about the everyday sexism project at the moment, and this is the kind of low-level everyday sexism that women experience in their lives all the time, kind of, isn't it? Just the little things.
We'd be lucky if it was only that. The Everyday Sexism Project is a blog now, a book that was started by a young British journalist called Laura Bates, who, after a series of incidents that she finds sexist, asked a couple of friends, have you ever experienced this? And then she put it up on a blog and invited other women to share their experiences, and they replied in their hundreds and thousands, and now it's a project that's set up in about 20 different countries, the Everyday Sexism Project. And what it outlines really is a spectrum or a sliding scale of sexism. And at the lower end is the kind of stuff that many men, and actually most women, mightn't even find sexist at all. It could be just a wolf whistle. Like, I don't burst into a feminist outrage if somebody wolf whistles at me. It doesn't happen often enough. But it's a sliding scale that goes from, you know, a wolf whistle to somebody saying, hey, sexy on the street, to that timeless classic that, guys, you've got to change, get your tits out, show us your tits. Then it is, when women don't respond to that, to much more aggressive forms of street harassment, which has led to a number of other online phenomena, such as the International Hollaback campaign, the Vagenda blog, the No More Page 3 campaign. The Everyday Sexism isn't in isolation. And then I think what it really was striking about it was the prevalence, the amount of women who reported harassment on the streets, and in some cases quite serious harassment. But really struck home for me the real aha moment, because up until now I would have said, no, I've never encountered sexism in my life. But actually what it documents in quite significant detail is not sexism, but the amount of sexual assault that women endure over the course of their lives. It could be a one-off, it could be quite regular. And I would say, no, I've never experienced sexism. And then you see all of these details of assault where women in the workplace, on public streets, on public transport, will maybe have their ass slapped, will have their breast groped. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I remember that happened when I was 17 in London for the first time, travelling on the tube for the first time, with a violin. I was over for an audition, so I had a violin in one arm and my luggage in the other. And a guy grabbed my breasts and my genitals, and it wasn't just a little grope, it was quite severe. I always thought in that situation that I would have reacted very strongly. I'm a strong girl. You freeze. You don't know what to say. The woman opposite me, there were tears forming in her eyes as there were in mine. And what was really distressing about that was not that somebody had got away with doing that, but that in fact that everybody else on the tube just averted their eyes and looked away. And it wasn't until recently that I kind of went, well, look, and especially now in my capacity as legal editor, where I cover rape and sexual violence and the pathway to that, that you kind of realise, well, that's not sexism, that's assault. And what's shocking about the Everyday Sexism Project is the extent of sexual assault that women engage. And it's not that men are running around the world like savages grabbing women at all costs, because that's deeply unfair to men who also experience sexism. Yeah. But what is just the level of it, and what we do as women is that we minimise it. I wouldn't even have thought of reporting that to the police or to the authorities. And the amount of women you ask and they say, yes, I've experienced that. And I don't think, I disagree with the book which kind of thinks that women are going through this epidemic of assault. I don't think we are. I think it's shone a light on something that's prevalent and quite existent. And the worry about it is that in this country, there was a recent survey in Europe done, almost 1 in 3 women will experience physical or sexual violence before the age of 15. Okay, 1 in 5 will experience unwelcome attention, and that's why it matters.
Okay, and it does matter. I do want to broaden it out a little bit more into general kind of sexism as well. Everyone doesn't have to feel they need to talk about assault and stuff. Sinead, the music industry would be regarded as being your classically sexist kind of industry. Was that your experience as an artist?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I have no experience of any other industry, so I don't know if in fact it is any different to any other industry. But Certainly it used to be. I don't, you know, yeah, the business end of it can be still quite sexist insofar as it's often quite hard for people to perceive you as the boss. Now that's something that happens to all artists, male and female. One of the things is that we all get treated like we're in fact working for the people who are working for us. That happens whether you're a boy or a girl in the music business. But that's obviously emphasised more if you're a girl. So I have found sometimes as a boss in the music industry, it's been really hard to get people to act on my instructions when it's really important that they do. And I'm actually...
Because they're looking around for the man. Kind of.
Well, no, because they are men, and despite the fact that you're paying them 4,000 quid a month each, they're not acting on your instructions on matters which may end you up in court and you'll be paying the legal fees, you know. So I've found myself in situations like that where, you know, I'm paying guys 4,000 quid a month. I'm being charged another 2,000 by lawyers, for example, who won't actually act on my instructions on really important things. I'll give you an example. Some time ago had a record coming out and I had co-written a song with a guy who we had released a version previously 2 years previous to this other record coming out. And the people working for me wanted to we rearranged the song for the record that was then coming out, so it was a different version, but still this guy was entitled to 50% of the song. My own people decided that they were going to shut him out of any credit on the song, okay? And this would have ended me up in court quite rightly when the guy, you know, sued me and I'd be paying the legal fees. And there's a week of like emails I could show you at some point, you know, of people, including the lawyer who was charging me $2,000 a month, the business people who were charging me $4,000 a month, not actually acting on the instruction. Not only I'm supposed to be, it's a bit like Ozzy Osbourne when he went to the stage and he saw Bubbles, he goes, I'm supposed to be the Prince of fucking Darkness. I'm supposed to be the Prince of integrity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was being misrepresented. I was also being put in a situation where I would have been paying legal fees, and also, you know, it would have been.
And you've talked about it in that broader sense as well. Like I'm thinking of your open letter to Miley Cyrus. So basically, a lot of young women now being pimped by kind of old men in the record industry as well.
Well, you know, my own experience, I suppose my main experience, I can't speak for anyone else, is as a boss. I've definitely found it hard. I'm not the kind of person who ever wants to or would really go, you know, I'm the boss, do it. That's not in my nature. I don't like being pushed to have to do that. And in this particular instance that I just told you about, I actually said that to one of the people I'm paying $4,000 a month to represent me. And he goes to me, I say, look, I don't like being put in a position where I have to say I'm the boss and just do it. And he goes, well, that's just part of being the boss, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And like a man, I'm sorry, a man boss would not get spoken to that way. Do you know what I mean? If you, you know. So
Maybe, yeah. Leah, a lot of the criticism you got after The Apprentice, I suppose it was on two levels. One was about your looks and kind of not being taken seriously. And the other was possibly because you were seen as ambitious and assertive and stuff, and that was not seen as good qualities for a woman to have. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've raised a really valid point. I think the two key issues were the fact that for women, when you're sort of very, very assertive, it's seen as you being, and you take on that leadership role, you're sort of seen as being bossy. So I recently did a Ban Bossy campaign, where we sort of try to get the message across that actually for young women, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking that leadership position, there's nothing wrong with asserting a bit of authority and actually speaking out, and it is definitely seen as a negative trait in women, unfortunately.
What is the Ban Bossy campaign?
So it was a campaign, it was fronted by Victoria Beckham, Beyonce, loads of sort of high, you know, women who are succeeding in their respective fields, and it was just to encourage young women to not feel, first of all, people do not use the term bossy as a descriptive term for women who are in powerful roles, and I hope that it, you know, it has enabled, you know, girls who are coming through in schools that do a lot of work in the community, you know, with young women who are sort of 16, 17, 18, and they're thinking about their career, and they're sort of shying away from anything that puts them out there as having to take a lead, because it is seen as an unattractive trait.
Why is it bad to be called bossy?
It just has a negative connotation. It's so for my personal example, when I did the final of The Apprentice, there's sort of a scene, and it's sort of me, and you know, we're very pushed for time, and obviously I'm someone's put a jar of potpourri in the middle of the waiting area, and we're trying to film an advert for the final. And I've said, quickly move the potpourri, you know, and I've sort of give quite direct instructions. I have the opposite problem from you, Sinead. I very much will say this is how it needs to be. And you know, the media headlines the next day were, you know, Leah on rampage and apprentice final. And I feel, you know, maybe if I was one of the male contestants, would it be, you know, say Neil or Alex steps up to the plate and lead up to the final, or and it's that sort of side of things.
I find what's wrong with Bossy is it's very invalidating. Your experience as a woman often is that you're invalidated on the grounds that you're a woman. What you think, do, say and feel can be labelled either crazy or emotional, or are you menstrual, or la la la, and that applies when you're a boss. So in the rare times that you may have to actually go, listen, I want to leave it to the cat's fucking home, do it. I'm paying you $4,000 a month. Yeah. If they go, oh, there, she's all moody, and they actually do. Yeah, and that's a very hard thing for fellas to understand. Look, most fellas are great. 99.9% of fellas in the world are wonderful, and you don't encounter it.
They are.
But the whole system. No, but it's true. No, but the whole system that we live in is it's designed really to, you know, I think keep women quiet.
There's one thing that strikes me as weird about the Ban Bossy campaign, though. Like, Beyonce is fronting it, right? And she's great and everything, but like, here's